Okay, so what is the RICO Information Guide? I'm sure you all heard about it, and it's a new thing that came out this year, 2024. RICO is the Real Estate Council of Ontario, which is the regulating body or the governing body for real estate agents, and they are the ones that slap us on the wrist or take away our license when we do something wrong. So they came up with this guide for protection, for consumer protection after TRESA was passed. TRESA is the Trust in Real Estate Services Act was passed by the Government of Ontario, and therefore new rules and regulations came forward after this act was passed in December of 2023. So one of these things, one of the products was the RICO Information Guide, and I'm going to talk about it briefly right now. So just a brief explanation on what it does. And also I'm going to share my screen to show you what it looks like. So here it is. The RICO Information Guide is a 13-page guide. And so basically, anytime you interact with a real estate agent, the real estate agent at the first possible opportunity must present you with this RICO Information Guide. Whether you decide to work with them or not, they must present you this guide and explain to you briefly what's in it. But it is the consumer's obligation to read it and to understand it. And if they had any questions, to ask the agent that presented them with this guide. And they must also acknowledge that they have received it if they decide to go ahead and work with this real estate agent. So in December 2023, the Real Estate Council of Ontario, RICO, passed new regulations regarding the trading of real estate to provide more disclosure and transparency. The act was called TRESA, Trust in Real Estate Services Act. So as part of this, we real estate agents are required to present you, the consumer, with the RICO Information Guide and have you acknowledge that you have read it, that it's been explained to you by the presenting real estate agent. So the way it works is consumers are responsible for reviewing the complete RICO Information Guide and addressing any queries or concerns directly with the agent who provided the guide. So the RICO Information Guide talks about working with a real estate agent. For sellers, agents help market your home, handle offers, and guide you through the sale process. So that's for sellers. For buyers, they assist in finding properties, negotiating, and managing the purchase process. So this, guys, is actually the bare minimum that any decent agent does, or I do. So also talks about duties owed to you as a consumer. Agents owe loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, and must avoid conflicts of interest. Your responsibility as a consumer, as in the guide, include clear communication to the agent, timely responses, understanding agreements, and fee payments. So understanding agreements and fee payments. RICO Guide also talks about risks of representing yourself. Handling a transaction without an agent comes with risks due to lack of expertise, and seeking a professional advice before proceeding is recommended. RICO Guide also talks about contract with the brokerage. So signing an agreement with the brokerage that outlines services, fees, and responsibilities of both agent and consumer. And recommends to look for key details like duties owed to you, services offered, and payment terms. Okay. The RICO Guide also talks about scope of engagement and services offered. To clearly define what the agreement covers, services provided, and payment terms, and to understand the specifics to avoid misunderstandings later. So the scope of engagement and services offered means that in each agreement you sign with the brokerage, whether it was a buyer representation agreement or a listing agreement to sell a house, the agreement will outline the duties and the specifics and the list of services that the real estate agent is going to provide in detail. The RECO Information Guide also talks about multiple representation, which involves representing multiple clients with conflicting interests in that transaction. Also says to require written consent from all parties involved and a disclosure of changes in duties and services. As a consumer, you can refuse multiple representations and explore alternatives if needed, as accepting multiple representation limits the services offered and could have consequences. So the RECO Information Guide does talk about multiple representation and explains that you can either accept or decline, and if you decline, that other options are available. Also, RECO Information Guide talks about confidentiality and refusal. So your shared information remains confidential without your written consent. So if you do not consent to us sharing any information, we will not share it. And to be honest with you, I never ask to share your information with anyone, unless it was a lawyer or a mortgage broker. And you can decline multiple representation, and agents cannot proceed without your agreement. Essentially, the RECO Information Guide talks about understanding these aspects and how it helps you in making an informed decision. So ensuring clarity and safeguarding of your interests during any real estate transaction with any real estate agent. Have any questions about representing you or working with any real estate agents, call me at 519-497-8731. We'd love to help you and show you what I do to protect your best interest.